All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining today. I'm Carolina Quesada with the Nonprofit Partnership, welcoming you to another segment, another interview segment that we call Our Stories, Our Time. And in these interview series, what we do is we interview nonprofit leaders to understand how the challenges of these current times how they're navigating these challenges. This is an interview series that we've been doing now for over a year. And it's our great pleasure to be able to talk to individuals who are really leaders in our community to learn more about, what are these successes? What are these breakthroughs that they're having as leaders of nonprofit organizations and the challenges, of course. So before I introduce our guest for today, the Nonprofit Partnership wishes to recognize and thank the Port of Long Beach for their generous support of this interview series. And again, if you're watching us live on Facebook, you feel free, plop in some messages there, say hi to our special guest. If you have any questions for her, we're happy to share these questions after the interview as well. So do feel free to engage with us online. So with that, let me just say that I'm so excited to introduce you all to Angel Macias, who is the Chief Executive Officer and founder of California Families in Focus. So Angel, welcome so much. And thanks for kind of riding that wave with me as we got started on this choppy little introduction.
No problem, no problem. Like I was saying, that's the beauty of live streaming anything, live TV. You're going to have those little glitches. But thank you first of all for allowing me to share my story and to let the community know what California Families in Focus is all about, our history and what we're doing.
Absolutely, Angel. I hope we can take a few minutes to talk about you. And so folks are, able to get to know you a little bit, maybe appreciate some of that history that, is a part of you. And anybody who knows you, obviously, and who's had a chance to work with you, they know just how deeply, deeply committed you are. And just to be around you, I mean, there's so much energy. You always have such positive energy, a positive outlook. And I know you have a magic wand somewhere. You make things happen. So let's get to know a little bit more about you, Angel. Tell us more about your background and how you became involved in the community.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna take you way back. My actual process, or I should say my evolution started in Culver City, and the projects of Culver City. We grew up in Culver City. My family migrated here from Mexico. My parents were from Zacatecas, and they came to California searching for the American dream, the better life, and to hopefully make a lot of money and bring a lot of money back to Mexico so that they could live happily ever after. So what ended up happening is that they moved to Culver City, a little street called Slauson, or named Slauson. It's right by the project. So the only thing that separates Slauson and the project is a little bridge by the creek. So my parents' dreams really quickly became nightmares because they were undocumented. They didn't speak English, and of course they had very limited job offerings for them. My mom had to work 2-3 odd jobs here and there to make ends meet, and my dad did too. So because of all that unintentional neglect, we were latchkey kids. We were left alone a lot, and coming from Mexico, and we all know what the value of women in Mexico is, women in education, let's say, because they are really the head of the household. But as far as women in education, my father didn't believe in women having strong educational anything, so he'd rather have me stay home taking care of my baby brothers and sister than have me go to school. So I would miss a lot of school. And when I did go to school, there was a lot of bullying going on because I had all my pants were all torn and my shoes were torn, and I didn't have all the clothes that, you know, the children were wearing. So I was bullied a lot for that. And I was bullied a lot for just having short hair and not being that pretty little girl that everybody, you know, expected me to be. I was a little tomboy from the beginning. So yeah, a lot of bullying. I could remember just hating school. I hated to go to school just because I knew the abuse that I was going to go through, you know. But all this, I'm saying all this just to kind of like let you know just the little struggles that happened along my way. My household was very abusive. My dad started drinking and using drugs. So I grew up being bullied at school, not having all of the resources that we need. You know, we all need those basic resources to be able to really capture and think about what am I going to be in the future? You know, what's my career goal? You know, we didn't think about any of that stuff because all we were thinking about was survival and how we were going to get our next meal, and was our dad going to be mad and abusing my mother. So growing up in this household and just all this negativity really takes a toll on you. And because you lack that love from your mother and your father and anybody around you, you look for it. So you go looking for love in all the wrong places. And my brothers, my cousins, and I found it in gangs. So we were part of the gangs. We did everything that the gangs do, and we thought we were, you know, having a good time, or whatever that meant at the time. We would look out the window and all we would see was like the gang members. They had all the money, they had all the pretty girls, they had the nice cars. And of course, you grow up seeing that every single day. That's what the goal was, you know. Um, it wasn't until we became part of that we started seeing all the negativity, all the negative stuff that has to happen for you to be part of that gang, to be part of that family. And so it doesn't feel good all the time, especially when you're alone and you just did something terrible to be part of this gang. You're alone in your house, you're alone anywhere, and your conscience starts to eat at you. And you know that this is not everything that this world has to offer. There has to be something better. So being part of all that just made me really appreciate everything I have now. Growing up in that particular community and experiencing lots of the stuff that happens. I was a teen mom. I am a survivor. I'm not going to say victim. I'm a survivor of domestic violence, and so many different things that were passed down from generation to generation. I moved to Long Beach. I'm going to fast forward now. I moved to Long Beach in the early 90s, and just immediately, I just felt like Long Beach was it. Like Long Beach was my mecca for healing and for transformation and so forth. And Long Beach just wrapped its arms around me and didn't let me go. I became a United States citizen when I started working here in Long Beach. I went and got my GED, and I started attending Long Beach City College, and just things really started happening and opening up. All these opportunities started opening up here for me, and I'm totally grateful. Um, I'm going to stop there and have you ask me some other questions.
No, it's so interesting. Usually at this point, I'm kind of trying to steer the conversation to other areas, but this is really, your story is quite captivating. And I want to thank you for sharing that, because I know that kind of sometimes going back into our own personal histories, it's not very easy, to do that. But thank you, Angel, for sharing that, because I think for anybody watching, you realize how much of who you are, and
Mm,
your own history and your own experience growing up, it really shapes the choices that you make, whether it's a choice to get involved in the community, it's a choice to, kind of drive this passion that you have and why you do what you do. And so, um, because I know a little bit about your organization, California Families in Focus, I know how intrinsically involved the values of the organization are to your own values, your ethics. I think your way of seeing how a group of like-minded focused folks can really make a difference for other people in the community. So I just want to thank you again for sharing all of that. And now that, maybe we can talk a little bit more about the organization
Yeah.
and talk about, really what launched CFF. What was that driving force behind CFF, and what are you doing now? What are you doing today?
Excellent questions. So when I first landed here, I started working for the Department of Health and Human Services. I've had really amazing jobs and amazing opportunities. Um, One of the first things that I started doing here was working with out of school individuals. So I was hired to go into the gang riddled neighborhoods because, just the average Joe couldn't go into the neighborhoods where you had these gang members who refused to go to school because of probably the gang affiliation or because of the lack of support, whatever the reason was. They were out of school individuals. HIV and AIDS was, rampant in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. But Long Beach was no exception, and especially um, uh, what the gangs would say is like, well, I'm not gay, I'm not going to get that disease. No, but you're using drugs and you're having unprotected sex with people in the community. So it was all a part, a very, very important part of the job for me to reach out to that particular very, very special community and connect with them and give them as much information that could potentially save their lives. And that's exactly what I did. We went into the neighborhoods and we worked different hours just to make sure that we caught them at the parks, we caught them at the after school programs, and we had to be very, very strategic about it. So I shared my past with them. As soon as I was able to get a group of young women or young men together, I just started sharing my past and telling them, look, I'm just like you. I came from the same place you came from, and I'm just here to give you a message that might save your life or the life of your brothers, your sisters, your aunts, your uncles, whoever's out there shooting drugs and having unprotected sex. You don't have to be gay to get this disease. So that was like my foot in the door. So I wasn't just like, I didn't like calmly come into Long Beach. It was like, boom, you're catapulted into this very, very dangerous job, and it's your choice to take it or not. So of course I took the job. And after working for them, for the Department of Health and Human Services. I've worked for the center of Long Beach. I've worked for elected officials and so forth, but nothing gave me the satisfaction that starting my own nonprofit did. And the way the nonprofit came about is just wanting to do different things that I wasn't able to do while working for the health department or for the elected officials or for the center. It was like, I want to do my own things, but I was very limited. And I couldn't work for a certain entity and then do my own things. So I met an amazing gentleman. His name is Robert Spieth, and I met another amazing human being, Miss Kimberly Maddox, Detective Maddox. And between those two, it was like having your little guardian angels or your little fairy godmother and fairy godfather. It was like, okay, what if you had a magic wand, what would you want? What would you like to do? So I shared, I just want to run my own programs and I want to have enough money to run them. I want to pay people to help me, and I want to educate, inspire, and empower our community, especially our young women. So it was like magic. They just asked me a bunch of questions, and between those two, we became incorporated as a 501c3 nonprofit organization in 2002. And we were talking about this earlier, but I'm a Latina, and when I was living in the neighborhood, we were warring between the Blacks and Latinos were not getting along. And then we were, once we started getting all this education in the community, it was like, oh, the white man's out to get you, and it's like the man and all this stuff. This just goes to prove everything that I was told wrong, because Kim is a was an African American female. Robert was a white male. These two people made it happen for me to start this nonprofit, and they were so loving and supporting and caring that now I'm like, whoever talks about anybody else, I'm like, hey man, you don't generalize, and don't just talk about people just because of what you've heard. Don't be a parrot. Don't be repeating things that you're hearing out in the community. Just this experience that I've had is so different than what you're trying to tell me.
Yeah, and they were instrumental in really helping you launch the foundation of California Families in Focus. And when you started, what were those areas of focus that you were really working on? What was it that just sort of, kind of gave you that platform to grow and expand?
Well, I wish Robert was here to talk about this too, but Robert and I saw a huge need in housing for youth that get kicked out of school, either because they're pregnant, kicked out of their homes, either because they're pregnant and they're teens, or because they're part of the LGBTQ plus community. They come out to their family, and the first thing that they do is get kicked, which you're placing them in danger. You're placing them in a situation where they're going to have to do whatever they need to do to survive. And if they're pregnant teens, you're just forcing them to go into a situation where this guy might not even love her. It was just sex. It was just sex, and out of this, she got pregnant. So now you're forcing that child to go live with somebody who doesn't love her, and of course she's going to get abused. She's going to be neglected, and it's going to be trickled down to the child as well. So we wanted to have this huge place, or this huge home, where we would just go look for these teens that were kicked out of their homes, and we wanted to provide them shelter, but also provide programs so that they can just be educated, inspired, and empowered to be the best version of themselves. However, there was so much like red tape, and there were so many hoops that we had to jump through. We took I mean, so many classes. We took so many certification workshops and so forth. We got certified. We got insurance. We got all these things. We were looking for buildings, but the only way we could get people to youth to be part of this was when they were 18, 19, 20. They can rent their own apartments by that time, well, some of them, but we couldn't. There was no way around it. So we were disappointed, and we said, let's put that in the back burner. But what can we do now? What can we do now to educate, inspire, and empower our young women and our youth to not put themselves in that situation in the first place? But where are the resources? What resources do we have out there for them to truly feel supported?
And that's what really launched the core of your education programs. Um, Also, it launched the core of your mentoring,
Yes.
and because that is like a key piece, right, of what you do and how you do what you do. Tell us a little bit more about that mentoring aspect, or those programs that you have always come under California Families in Focus, that really help young people just sort of feel like they're connected to this larger community.
Absolutely. First of all, I just want to say that mentoring is the key for us to keep creating those ethical and socially conscious leaders, because you may not have that family that is there to love you and support you and give you all these resources, but you can't create your family. And this is what we teach every youth that comes um, to our nonprofit. You know, create that. You don't have that, don't complain about it, because it is what it is. Until you're 18, or until you get your own place, you're going to have to love and respect your family no matter what. So teaching them to find their family, create their family, find their tribe, and really pull from all these amazing leaders that might be around them and that want and are able to provide services for them or resources. Mentoring is one of the greatest things we can do for our youth. Um, the most important thing besides funding is people's time. It's the greatest resource and asset that we can ever have, is somebody who says, I think I could make a difference in the life of this youth, and offers their time for them to be matched with a mentee. We started mentoring with one of the most difficult communities. You know, we started mentoring teen moms, and it was very difficult because they didn't even know where they were going to be today, tomorrow, or whatever, wherever, and because they were pregnant, because they were looking for that love in all the wrong places as well. So you already have them coming to you because they're looking for something. So taking that population, we provided everything that we could, and then drawing from, okay, so when I was a teen mom, what is it that I needed? What did I need at the time? What kind of resources? What kind of services? What kind of people did I need in my life? And just pulling out from that and saying, okay, so let me incorporate this, and then let me have a roundtable where I'm asking the pregnant teens what they want, because things might have changed from when I was a pregnant teen to now. So we created the mentoring program for pregnant teens, and it became an award-winning mentoring program. The only setback is that we had a line of young women waiting, and these young women wanted to be part of it because they saw all the amazing things that we were doing, but they were not pregnant. So one of them just said, well, do I have to be pregnant to become part of this program? And I said, no, please, this is what we're trying to get you not to do. Do not be a teen mom. So then we just said, we just need to provide mentoring, period. So we provided mentoring to young women who were not pregnant, and we stressed that part, but we used the girls, the teen moms that were pregnant, to tell them why, and to show them a day in the life of a pregnant teen. And once these girls experienced that, they were like, oh, no, no way. Okay, you're right. I don't want to be a teen parent. I don't want to be a teen mom yet.
Right. And it allowed them to maybe establish other relationships, right? To your point, to really enrich that experience for them, get to see a different way of maybe thinking about life or doing life. One of the other things that you and I, on another occasion, were talking about, I was sharing my observation with you about how there's such a family feel to California Families in Focus. Like, it's no joke that you have Families in Focus in your title,
Yes.
and you live it. I mean, you live that value, because to engage with your organization, and as you look at the structure of it, the leaders who are driving a lot of the programs, a lot of the projects, who are involved as volunteers, are actually parents, aren't they? I mean, they're part of their kids are part of your programs, are somehow part of your activities. Tell us a little bit more about that family element to what you do.
So in the community, if you see me around all these youth, and some of them don't look like youth anymore because they've been with me since elementary, since high school, or whatever. They're now adults, but they still call me Mama Angel. So you have these grown kids that anywhere in the community, and it just flows out of their mouth. Mama Angel this, Mama Angel that. And people just turn around and look at me and like, wait, that one's black, that one's Asian, that one's Latino. So what is going on here? And I'm like, okay, so I just adopted all these children. But it's it's that trust. And I didn't ask them to call me Mama Angel. It just organically just happened. And then as new members come in, as the mothers bring in their daughters, it's just they hear it and they repeat it as well. So I have like thousands of children out in the Long Beach community, but it's really beautiful because you're right. It's that nurturing. It's that nurturing that you give them, and they are not just a file and a case and a number. They are a human being with very specific needs. And when their mothers bring them on board, they totally explain to them, look, Angel has the same rights that I do, and if you're messing up and she sees you messing up, you better know that she has the right to scold you or just to tell you like it is. The mothers bring their daughters and their sons, and then they just come and volunteer. And once they start volunteering, they get that feeling or that sense of purpose and pride because we open their eyes to the social ills, but we also give them the resources and we show them that there's lots of nonprofit organizations that are out there and who actually care. So they get information and education from us, but we also pull from the community because we understand 100% that we cannot do this alone. So the mothers are involved, the community is involved, the businesses are involved with CFF, and just leadership from the police department to the fire department to city hall. The response that I get when I pick up the phone and call them or send them an email or just walk in and say, hi, I'm here, I need your help. The response is beautiful. And I'm really grateful for the many years that we've been here in Long Beach. And I think to your point is like you lead by example, but you're just a leader and you just show people that this is what you're doing, and whoever wants to jump on board, you're more than welcome to jump on board. We're not gonna be sidetracked or anything. This is the train that we're on. You either jump on it or you just let the train just keep going. It's a family train. It's the love train.
And for those who are going to answer that call, there is room for them. There is room for them to come in, step into a leadership role, collaborate on different projects, on different programs. It is really interesting because your model, your approach is one where it really is community just sort of driving a lot of this programming, driving a lot of these projects, organizing it and doing it themselves. And so they get to like grow into these clusters. And I've gotten a chance to know a little bit more about that, about your organization. So shifting gears a little bit, Angel, we know that the pandemic has impacted everybody. Everybody, every
Absolutely.
organization, there's been some degree or other of impact. Share with us some of the ways that California Families in Focus has pivoted during these times, what has changed for you. How are you coming back now that there's more of us vaccinated? And I think, kind of trying to come back to in-person spaces, but tell us more about what that experience has been like for you.
Wow. Well, first of all, just just experiencing COVID, and not knowing anything about it, like everyone else, that provide services for the community. It hit us really like a tsunami because we were like we just had this archaic way of doing things where it was like, no, you have to print this document and you have to physically should give it to them and they have to physically sign, and everything was like physical. It was material. When COVID hit, we were like, what the heck are we going to do? Are we going to close? Are we going to keep our doors open? How are we going to keep the doors open? The majority of our funding comes from individuals and local businesses and foundations, and then they were impacted too. So what are we going to do? What is going to happen? So I'm just glad to say that we didn't shut our doors. What we huddled, the mothers, the fathers, the kids, everybody huddled and said, okay, well, what's the game plan? What are we going to do? And we just went back to basics. We said, okay, so we can't do any programming. We can't do any in-person events to raise funds or whatever. Do we just shut down? No. What we decided to do is learn everything that we could about COVID and how to protect ourselves and how to still provide services to the community. So we decided to focus on the neediest of the community members. Number one, people that were being highly impacted were our immigrants, because they were the first ones on the chopping block to get rid of. The second set of community members were teen mothers, because they were barely making it and struggling. And then we had our seniors, or our homebound citizens that could not get out there to get all the vital supplies that they needed. So having thinking about that, and having our members just chip in on, okay, well, this is where we're at. It's inevitable. Let's quickly pivot, and let's provide basic needs to the most neediest of our community. And we learned everything that we could. We set up a little sanitizing station right inside of the office. Of course, only 2 to 3 people inside the office at one time. You always have to wear your mask. So it was all these different, like, crazy things that we had to do just to be together. We couldn't hug, we couldn't touch, and we're huggers. We couldn't hug and we couldn't touch and we couldn't do any of that stuff. So we had to do everything that we could. We provided just an amazing amount of services to all of our community. We started putting together our love baskets. And our love baskets were actually baskets that had foods, they had gift certificates, they had masks, they had sanitizing, everything, and handwritten cards that our youth and our families hand wrote to everybody that we were delivering these baskets to. Just uh, greeting cards with hope, messages of hope to them, and I think it really, some of our seniors said that those cards just kept them going. They kept them alive, because they were all of a sudden just confined to their little places. A lot of these seniors don't have family members that come visit them, and a lot of them have outlived their family members. So another thing that we did is we started teaching our seniors how to open up a Facebook account, how to do a Twitter, how to do an Instagram, how to connect through Zoom, so that they wouldn't just wither away and just die, because we know that that can happen. So once we did that, they were connected. They were connected to everybody else.
Well, and it's amazing because I mean, really, what you're sharing with us is these anecdotes were clearly engagement. You realized how important it was to still keep people in the community engaged, to recognize that there were people who were impacted by the pandemic, economically, health wise, more so, right? Because of just certain conditions that you were describing a little earlier. But you didn't shy away from the challenge. You
No.
stepped up and you met the challenge. So, Angel, now that we're really at time with the interview, how would you? What are some of the closing words that you would like to share about where California Families in Focus is going? What you're going to really be looking at, in the next few months, and possibly into the new year? Have you talked about an expansion of your programs or projects? What are some of the things that you're talking about right now?
That's another awesome question. So right now, what we're working on is empowering all of the coordinators that are in charge of, like, the I Matter 2, the Spirit of Christmas, the Trans Pride, every event that we have. we're having this hands-on training to put all of these chairs that have the passion and the time and the commitment to run them themselves. You know, it gets very taxing on an executive director or a CEO or a founder to want to do everything and to kind of have to do everything themselves. So the best thing you could do to be that best executive director or CEO is to teach and to train and to educate them on this is how you run it, and here you go, take that baton, that baton and just run with it and do a great job, because you never know, they might surprise you and do a way better job than you were doing. So that's what's happening. We're recruiting right now for the Kimberly Maddox Youth Scholarship. We're having people fill out the application. The biggest scholarship we've given out is $7,000. So if you're in need, if you're an immigrant and don't qualify for those other scholarships, just apply to California Families in Focus. Our VIP mentoring program needs 25 amazing women to come mentor our team women, and we also need speakers and presenters for our monthly workshops. Other than that, everything else, you're going to see a flurry of just all these invitations and flyers letting you know what we're doing out into the community. But you know, we're just grateful that we're still here, grateful that we are having amazing community partners that are coming in, and leadership that's actually stepping up, so that all I have to do right now is just be that CEO that's just writing proposals and pulling in the money and doing like the shaking the babies and the kissing hands, or said kissing hands and yeah.
And don't you ever forget modeling at every step of the way, because you can't help but exude compassion and love for other people at every turn, everything that you do. Angel, it's been such a joy, such a pleasure. Thank you for spending time with us today on this interview. And for those who are watching, let me just say that there is a way to connect with Angel and her team. If you go to the website, mycff.org, mycff.org, there are buttons that you can go to, or links to connect with them. But if they just want to email you directly, Angel, what is the best email?
It's Macias, AMACIAS @mycff.org.
Excellent. Thank you again. It's just been a pleasure. Thank you. Just always appreciate your time, Angel, and everything that you and your colleagues and your team and your family at California Families in Focus is doing for their community. So thanks again. And please keep in touch with California Families in Focus. See you all next time.
Bye.